It's a Stray Cats here on Zone Radio 88.5. That song called Runaway Boys. And it brings us time to 9 minutes past 4. And we can speak to a lady who is of the legal persuasion, I do believe. And her name is Storme Gorton. Have I got that right?
You have. Well done.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right. Okay, so I was a bit nervous about that because, you know, I don't want to get your name wrong and then you come and you hit me. I don't want to be hit. Not by the law.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You did well.
All right, so you were the company called CNA Friedlander, but let me start by saying this, that Storme is part of the False Bay Business Network. In fact, she is the treasurer of the False Bay Business Network, recently elected. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
And I think you need to just wiggle your microphone there a little bit, Storme, because I'm getting a bit of a crackle from you here.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Maybe it's my microphone, I don't know. All right, so part of the network is, we'll talk about the network just for a bit, Storme, and tell people what that's about.
Okay, so the False Bay Business Network, I joined during the course of 2019. And it's basically about the community that we live in and supporting businesses in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, referring business to each other and just bouncing things off each other. And it's also great to have a network of people who you can refer to and who you can, you know, seek for advice. Also, I know with the COVID times, it was great to actually touch base, even though it was via Zoom, and see how everybody, you know, who has also got a business like ourselves is dealing with the epidemic and staff and staying positive. So it's basically we build each other up and yeah, we also support each other's businesses and yeah, so it's great. It's great to belong to.
It is indeed. And they help one another through that crisis. Some of them are still in that crisis, but we'll speak to each and everyone individually about that. CNA Friedlander, that's the name of the company, attorneys, notaries, and conveyancers. Now, this is part of a bigger stable of, or bigger company. You explain the structure for us.
Okay, yeah. So thanks, Richard. We are... our company is just over 100 years old, and we've got an office in Cape Town CBD. We've got an office in Claremont, Tiger Valley, and then ourselves, and we are in Noordhoek. So it's great. As I'm chatting to you now, I'm actually looking out into a beautiful garden with some birds, and yeah, we really are blessed to be able to operate in this area. I myself do conveyancing, notarial practice, wills and estates. And I mean, our firm does everything from liquor law, which, you know, now crazy, to maritime law, to marriage contracts, to divorces, to litigation, evictions, criminal law, you name it, we do it. So, yeah.
Is that all represented here in Noordhoek?
No, so in our Noordhoek office, we have myself who does conveyancing, notarial practice, wills and estates, and then we have another partner who does he does civil and matrimonial and some wills and estates as well. Mm-hmm. Then the rest of the branches, you know, attend to different or various factors, various parts of law, but you know, they do often travel to our offices to see our clients if it is something that they specialize in. So, you know, and obviously now with Zoom, what's really great is that we've all learned to do meetings online, which makes it even easier. Yeah.
Well, that's going to change the way we do things for a long time in the future. It really is.
Definitely.
I kind of anticipate in about 2 years' time, or when some sort of 12-year-old works it out, we're going to find that Zoom is like old school. There's going to be something that is going to be far superior and far easier to use and far more versatile. But, you know, at the moment, that 12-year-old isn't allowed to go back to school yet. But once they do, they'll work it out. They'll work it out. Yeah. Okay, let's focus on what it is that you do. Conveyancing. Let's just define conveyancing for those who don't know what it is.
Okay, so it's basically the study of property law. So everything to do with property law, everything to do with deeds office, surveyor general, if you are buying a house, if you are selling a house, if you are bonding your property, if you are sectionalizing your property, subdividing, anything like that to do with property, that is what we do. And we've got a deeds office system, deeds registry system, and everything goes through that. So as an attorney, you can't just do conveyancing. You have to actually study further and become a conveyancer in addition to being an admitted attorney.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. It's actually a specialized field. So you do your normal studies, your normal, I did, it was like 40 subjects, and then you study further and you actually then are admitted as a conveyancer as well. You do an additional exam. Same thing with notarial practice. So in order
what's
to
notarial practice?
Okay, so notarial practice is a lot to do with authentication of documents for use overseas. So if you need a power of attorney because you've got a property in Spain, for instance, and you live here and you want to give somebody power of attorney, there is a certain way of or a certain way of authenticating documents for use there. So you can come to me, we'll do the power of attorney. I then need to authenticate it as a notary public, which is then, our court then authenticates that I am an admitted notary public, and that then is able to be used abroad in Spain. So I confirm somebody else's signature, courts confirm mine, and then Spain, in that example, would confirm them. So also notarial practice, if you are getting married and you want to do an antenuptial contract, you need to execute the contract. We call it execute, sounds scary, but we execute the contract in front of a notary public. It then becomes enforceable between you and your partner, and then once registered at the deeds office, it becomes enforceable against the world at large. So yeah.
So those two aspects of law all deal with a deeds office.
Exactly, yes.
Which must have been a nightmare for you during lockdown, because
it was awful.
There was no deeds office operating.
Yeah, there's still a backlog of 14,000 deeds at the moment, and the Cape Town Attorneys Association, together with the Estate Agencies Affairs Board, and a couple of other associations, have actually taken the deeds office to court, and they are expected to report back in court tomorrow as to how they are going to get through the 14,000 backlog, and also their plan for COVID going forward, because they were closed last week for 5 days, 5 working days to, to decontaminate the offices. So that means that 5 days are lost of examination of the deeds. Our revenue is, so many people's revenue comes from, believe it or not, registrations of properties, whether it be an estate agent, whether it be a compliance company who's issuing a compliance certificate, whether it be us as the transferring attorney, bond cancellation attorney. So many people are dependent on that. And you'll be shocked to realize how much money or how much conveyancing actually contributes to our GDP. So there was a huge loss when we couldn't work and when deeds office couldn't operate.
But they are open, but now closed because of,
they were closed the whole of last week due to one of the staff members testing positive. And obviously we were notified on Sunday that they were going to be closed last Sunday. And we understand that they only decontaminated the deeds office on Thursday last week. So for 4 days, I'm not too sure what happened, but that is exactly why they have been put to task now, or taken to task, and have to return to court tomorrow to give a detailed plan of exactly how they intend on dealing with it. Because COVID's not going anywhere. No. It's going to be around for a very long time. Every time somebody comes into contact with somebody who may have tested positive, they can't possibly close the deeds office for another 5 days.
No, they can't do that.
In order to deal with it. So yeah, they're back in court tomorrow. So we're hoping to have some good news on the way forward. But they are open at the moment, and they've apparently returned with 55% of their staff members. They've got about 186 staff members, give or take, and before this week, Monday, they were only operating with about 18 staff members. So that just shows you exactly where the backlog came from.
And that backlog, unfortunately, it impacts, as you say, on people's income. First and foremost, yours, and then anybody else who's like an estate agent, or
Absolutely.
I didn't realize though that an antenuptial contract went through a deeds office.
Yes. So an antenuptial contract, if you sign one with your partner, it is enforceable between the two of you because you've signed a contract between the two of you. But it actually has to be notarized and registered at the deeds office in order to be effective against third parties, so that somebody can't come after you for the debts of your spouse.
Yeah.
It has to be registered, and then it becomes public knowledge.
Just talking about things like conveyancing and things like this. What's the process? When do I get to interact with you, or do I ever interact with you if I'm, say, for instance, buying a house or selling a house? Do I deal with you or the other people?
You do.
Okay.
No, you do. So what happens is, say, for instance, you're selling a house, you sign a mandate with an estate agent, you sell your property. The contract has to go through a conveyancing attorney. So the estate agent, or you as the seller, would send us the agreement of sale. We would then get in contact with you and say, we have been appointed to attend to the registration of the transfer. These are the aspects of the sale agreement. For instance, the purchaser needs to pay a deposit into our account within days. The agreement is subject to the purchaser getting a bond approval by X date. And we would then advise you in terms of the contract when the estimated transfer date is, occupation date, all of that. Once the suspensive conditions have been fulfilled, we draft the legal documentation that will need to be signed by the seller and the purchaser. You would then come into our offices. We would schedule an appointment. You would sign the documentation with us. It would be affidavits, documents for SARS, rates, refunds, forms, a power of attorney to pass transfer, all sorts of documents that will come to us. You sign, and then we would apply for a rates clearance certificate on the property, which basically confirms to the purchaser that the rates are all paid up to date on the property and are in a credit of, say, about 2 months, so that the purchaser knows that, by the time transfer happens, the rates is still in good nick. And then we would pay transfer duty to SARS, which is payable by the purchaser, which is, we all love SARS, and it's a tax. Transfer duty is a tax that the purchaser pays when buying property in South Africa. And yeah, there's a sliding scale as to how much it would be depending on the purchase price of the property. And then once everything is in order and we've got all the documentation that we require by law to lodge at the deeds office, we would then lodge at the deeds office, which is actually just filing them in the deeds office. And it goes through 3 different examination phases by the deeds office. And believe it or not, we've actually got one of the most advanced deeds registry systems in the world.
Wow.
I know it doesn't seem like it now, but we do, because they really do go through all the documentation, make sure that Richard Griggs, you are Richard Griggs, that is your ID number, I've cited you correctly, you are married or unmarried, you're not insolvent, that I've cited the property description correctly, that there's no conditions on the property that I haven't carried forward. And then it usually takes about, when the deeds office is doing well, about 7 to 10 working days to be registered. And upon registration is once we go into the deeds office, we actually, again, execute the deeds in front of the registrar. And then on that day is usually when the estate agents are paid their commission, sellers paid their proceeds, seller's bond is cancelled, purchaser's new bond is registered. Yeah, and the property then is registered in the name of the purchaser. So, I mean, that's like a quick guide, but it is quite involved.
And all of this deeds office stuff is actually them checking your work from the sounds of things.
Exactly.
They're making sure you've done your job.
Precisely, yeah.
Okay, all right. So that is a long, well, how long a process is it? Let me ask you that.
So usually, when things are going well, you can get it done in 5, 6, 7 weeks. At the moment, we've lodged a transaction that's, because of this whole COVID scenario, we lodged on the 14th of May, and it was only registered today. it doesn't usually take that long, but obviously with this whole situation it has. So, but when it's working, it works well, and then it usually takes about 7 to 10 working days to be registered from date of lodgement. Yeah.
And lodgement, do you actually physically take the forms through to the deeds office?
Yeah, so we quite blessed in the sense that we've obviously got our Cape Town office that we do depend on as well. So we get it to our Cape Town office, and then the conveyances there that go to the deeds office daily would then take it through for us and lodge it. Yeah.
And those are all qualified people. This is not like the office messenger.
No.
The office messenger can't do this. It's got to be a qualified
Those are
person.
admitted conveyances, yeah.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Okay, talk to me about the other things that you do. We've hopped on about the conveyancing, because that's something that people deal with regularly as Joe Public. But things like what was the thing? Sectional title registration. What you deal in that? You specialize in that?
I do. So again, what would happen is if somebody, for instance, owned quite a nice size piece of land, and they decide that they want to maybe make some money on it, they decide that they want to build, and they build a sectional title scheme. Now, you can't just go and build a block of flats. There are certain zoning requirements. There are, rules and bylaws that you need to follow. So they would then get hold of a land surveyor, who would then appoint us to draft a conveyancer certificate to say what are the restrictions in the title deeds. And some title deeds that we go and we check for restrictions go back to the early 1800s. So there are actually records. Yeah, there are actually records. And that's, again, our deeds office system is quite jacked with it when it comes to that. It does take us a little while to get those deeds, but they are there. We would have to then record if there's any restriction against opening a sectional title scheme or having multiple dwellings on a property. Then the land surveyor would then lodge all the applications with the City of Cape Town and draft diagrams of how the scheme is going to look at the end of the day, all the different flats, different common properties, any garages that are to be built, any storerooms, gardens. That then would be approved by council, be approved by the Surveyor General's office. That would come to us, those diagrams. We would then create or do the opening of the sectional title register at the deeds office and create those sections, and then transfer those on to, usually what happens is people then have buyers and they start advertising the block of flats or the apartments, and then we would transfer the units to those individual purchasers and create the scheme, and also do the opening of the sectional titles, the rules and the regulations that go along with that.
That's a big job. That's big job.
Yeah.
You say that there be like restrictions on a deed. Okay. What's an example of a restriction?
Okay. So so many of the properties, for instance, in Scarborough, have that can't sell intoxicating liquor on the premises.
And that's written into a legal document from way back.
Exactly. Yes. And the only way to remove that is to apply to council or to get a court order. So it's all a very lengthy procedure, but those title deed conditions stand. The other ones would be no noise or injurious trade, no shops or business of any kind. So you can apply to have those removed. It just is a lengthy process. Yeah, so we would have to do that. Sorry?
And a costly one, I would imagine, as well.
Absolutely.
Depending on its complexity. I think that's very interesting. So there's more to just being a conveyancer than, it's actually quite a complex a minefield area of law. I mean,
it is.
If you like
the fact that you're dealing with people's millions of money. Often it gets to a situation where people are retiring or they wanting to downscale. They're selling their property, which often is their only asset, and they're entrusting you with that and with their millions of rands, to handle their transaction for them. So yeah, there's also obviously a lot of bookkeeping that is involved and finances.
Yeah, so it's not like a criminal law, you know, the guy robbed the bank and he got arrested and he's in jail and he needs a criminal lawyer. That's a whole different thing. But I mean, this is fairly complex. People, you know.
It is. It is. You know, we always have a joke with a couple of the guys from our Cape Town office. They often call us conveyancers form fillers.
Oh, they do, do they?
You know, yeah, we just form fillers. But
okay.
yeah, but it really is, you know, we're not just attorneys, we conveyancers as well as admitted attorneys, and yeah, and then a lot of us are notaries as well.
Yeah, but that's like being a doctor and a heart specialist. It works exactly the same.
I'm going to tell them that next time. Thanks.
Yeah, no, you can tell them. Tell them I said so. And if they want to come and argue, they know where I am. All right. So, your operation, where do people get hold of you, Storm?
So I am in the Noordhoek area. So behind Long Beach, next to the Long Beach Medical Center, we are perfectly positioned there. And then we've got ample parking. And then all our details are on the website as well. And yeah, email, cell phone numbers are on there. Yeah, telephone numbers.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refer people to the FBN website, because if you go to the FBN website, the False Bay Business Network website, which I said earlier on, is fbn.co.za. When you get onto the landing page, you will see there are a whole lot of different categories, and one of those is CA Friedlander Incorporated. And you don't just work there; you're like a director there.
Yeah.
Is it called a director in a law firm, or they changed it as a partner? How does it work?
So you can be a director without being a shareholder. We kind of refer to that as director partner. So, you know, I'm a shareholding director. So you can be a salary director or a shareholding director. So we actually, there's a couple of us, and it's great because we've got about 100 employees, and there's about 11 of us that are directors, and we, kind of decide on things together, which is great.
And the business as a whole, how's it coped with the lockdown? Have you guys been set back, or is the work still coming in? Did you end up with that sort of pipeline backing up? How did that work out for you guys?
So from a conveyancing perspective, coming back, we still had matters in the deeds office, which could, sustain us for a little while. I think we felt it quite badly during last month when our pipeline had almost been exhausted. So we had to wait for estate agents to get operating again, because I actually think that as a company, a lot of our income, if not most of it, is generated via conveyancing. At the moment, things have really picked up nicely. We've really got in some nice quality, good sales at the moment, and we are working hard, and the market has turned. The fact, I think, that the interest rate has dropped as well has made a substantial difference to a lot of people. The affordability is there. We've been able to pick up nicely. Obviously, we've still, got past debts to pay, and we still, we're all going to be battling along, I think, for the next few months. But it was a battle. We've withstood it. We've had some great people in our firm that have been able to guide us through this and get us to the other side. And I have no doubt that within a few weeks or months, we will get there and be stronger for it. So we've of so many people having to be retrenched, so many companies have retrenched so many people, and we've really been blessed in that sense that we weren't terribly affected by that.
So you didn't have to retrench people or cut salaries and that type of stuff?
Yeah, we had to cut salaries. But it won't be, hopefully not long term at all. And we were able to give our staff fair warning, and we've also applied for some TERS money, which we will then distribute towards us or to our staff to try and compensate. But as a whole, I think as a firm, we have really, really, I think our cash flow projections were on it, and we've been able to get through, which is great. Yeah.
I'm Happy to hear that. Over and above all the other stuff we've spoken about, folks, I am looking at that website that I just mentioned to you earlier on, the fbn.co.za website. And over and above the conveyancing and the interesting stuff we spoke about this afternoon, there is also drafting of wills and winding up of the deceased estate. You also do that from the Noordhoek office.
Yes, I do.
All right. So there's a whole range of products here that are offered by Storme and by C.A. Friedlander, and you'll find them down next to the Noordhoek Medical Center. You're right next to the door, aren't you?
That's right.
Yeah. And that's behind the mall. Is there any parting advice you want to give people, Storme?
Well, now that you've mentioned wills, yeah, I must say, and I'm not just saying this because we do it. I know of so many people that don't have valid wills, and a family member dies, and really there is a huge amount of stress and everything when somebody dies, as it is, and then you out that the person didn't have a valid will or didn't have a will, and then the family start fighting because auntie wants that ring and brother wants that, so I must say you don't necessarily have to have it done by an attorney. It doesn't make it legal. There are certain requirements that have to be met in order for a will to be valid and accepted, but it really does just help your family, especially at a time like that, to get through a little bit, more plain sailing. So you can also contact me for a will. We are able to assist you with that. And then we also do have Free Wills Week in September, where we actually do it free of charge. And just make sure that you and your family are protected and that you get the best possible advice that you can about such a sensitive topic.
That's good advice coming from a lady whose name is Storme Gorton, and she is a director at C.A. Friedlander, their office. And you kind of, do you head up the office here? Okay, she's like the boss of the office here in Noordhoek. And I didn't want to say that just now. There is somebody else who's the boss, and then I'm saying. So she's the boss. She's the boss. Go and see her and check her out. Will's very, very important, and something that makes what is very traumatic actually it's like passing the ball. You can say someone else is doing that. Yeah. All right. So thank you for your time this afternoon. I hope.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for agreeing to come and chat to us and share this expertise. And I certainly hope people will be contacting you. As I say, the FBN website is where you can find the information about Storme, and she is C&A Friedlander Incorporated. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll chat again.
Thank you. You too. Okay. Thanks, Richard.
All right. Cheers, eh?
Bye-bye.
Speaking to Storme this afternoon, and she is from C&A Friedlander, and they are attorneys, notaries, and conveyancers, and they're based right here in Noordhoek. As I say, she is a member of the FNB network, and this is all part of a series of interviews that we are doing with a local business, not only the False Pay Network, business network, but other businesses as well, as we try and get people to trade and deal local. We've got a number of attorneys in this valley, and they're all out there, and they all need to be supported so that we can get through this thing called COVID-19 and get to the other side less scathed than we would have been if we had just tried to do it all on our own. We're in this together. And there are people out there that are ready and willing to help, and this is one of those companies. So you heard it here on Zone Radio 88.5. We thank her for her time, and we'll have more of these. We'll certainly have more of these. For now, though.